Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Excited to have back here Cherrisse Hall from a Bird's Eye View event. And not only is it her, but we have Stefan, her husband and partner as well, joining us today. How are you both doing?
We're doing very well, Jill. How are you doing? How was your
I'm
Mother's Day?
great. Fantastic. I'm just losing you in and out there on the
I know,
green
I'm sorry.
screen.
It keeps
I
fading
mean,
in
we're
and out.
fine on the podcast side, but yes, I know we're seeing some technical difficulties, but there you go. Don't move. Pleasure to have you both here. So please tell us a little bit more, Cherrisse, about what you do. And of course, Stefan, we're going to talk to you today as well.
Absolutely. A Bird's Eye View is an event planning business here out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And we come together to help individuals, mainly bridal clients, but also those that may be celebrating birthdays, anniversaries, retirements, or any type of celebration that they want to bring people together that needs some coordination.
Perfect. And just to point out, it's a bird's eye view events.com is the best form of contact for you both.
Yes, a bird's eye view events.com, or they can Google search a bird's eye view events, North Carolina, and find us as well as on that search, they'll see all of our platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, and Event Tective.
Fantastic. So, what did you have in mind for today since it's Stefan's first time here? Do you want to talk a little bit about your involvement, Stefan, how you got involved, and tell me a little bit about what you all do together? Thank you.
Well, wonderful. Thank you for having me this morning. So pretty much my role is to support in any capacity in which we have for the event planning. So sometimes it comes in the form of administration pieces of the business. Other
Of
parts
course.
I'm helping break down and set up and get things carted in and out of the business. The event. So it just depends. Wherever I'm needed, I try to fill in. But just wanted to speak to the partnership overall and how things came to fruition from a vision standpoint because that's kind of how it all came together with Cherrisse having a passion and then we just looked to pursue it and things unfolded in that manner that way.
Oh my God.
So
Okay, well, before we get down to the business, I need to know now how the two of you met. Tell me your little bit of your backstory together. Do you mind? And then let's talk about how you started working together. And yeah, definitely get that backstory of how this all came about as
so
well.
we're actually from the same hometown.
Hmm.
And in high school, I guess she didn't find me cool enough to be with. So she went off her
Just
separate
took
way in
some
high
time.
school.
Hmm.
Yeah, just took some time. Just took some time. But it happens. But life brought us together several years later on a blind date, believe it or not. I started working at a new company, and one of the gentlemen in my class at the time came on board with us together, and he said, "You know what? I don't even know how this came up in conversation, but I've got someone for you." And I guess his wife and my now wife were roommates,
Oh
and
my
so
gosh.
he kind of hooked us up on a blind date.
Oh my goodness. And from there, how many years ago was this?
12, 13 years ago. It's been a while. So
Oh,
about 13 years ago.
perfect. Oh my goodness. So, okay. So now 13 years ago, you've been together. You build your
Hmm.
life together. Tell me what's leading up to a bird's eye view. If this was your vision, Charisse, or was it both of your vision?
Well, it was kind of my vision, but it was kind of birthed out of a situation that we had during our wedding. The coordinator that we had booked ended up kind of ditching us a few months before our wedding. And pretty much, we were planning and doing our thing ourselves. And when she ended up leaving us, I had to take the rings, and Stefan was like, "Well, babe, you can do this because you have been, doing project management for a minute now. And I think we're going to be okay." So I partnered with our local venue and dealt with their internal partners to kind of facilitate a day of items for us. But out of that, we figured we could possibly do this to satisfy people and reduce their stress where they wouldn't have to worry about, being left by themselves like we were.
Oh, wow. Oh, and then all of a sudden, now when did this come into fruition? I mean, I'm sorry about that,
Mhm,
but look, it worked out. Everything has a reason in life. It made you start your own company. So could you share that and how you started that together?
mhm. So why don't you talk
So,
about that?
well, Cherrisse had been helping out family members and friends and some of her girlfriends. She had helped plan their wedding and do it. And we're like, you know what? They're pulling you in kind of last minute to make all this magic happen for them. And so successfully, she did work with one of her best friends to get her wedding done. And then her best friend, of course, referred her to her sister who was getting married. And I was like, Sharice, this is something that, is becoming a lot more frequent. Might consider like actually pursuing this. And so she'd worked with the young lady for a few months, and out of just, I don't know, sheer coincidence, we are like, you know what, it's time to start a business, like formalize this instead of doing these ad hoc, favors for folks, right? And she's like, well, what would we call it? And I was like, well, you have this eye for detail, and I think a bird's eye view, looking at everything from the top down, from the high levels to the minute details, you'll be able to see things. I think it's a good opportunity for us to kind of branch out on that. And she obliged, and here we are. So that's the Cliff's Notes version
Oh my
of how
gosh.
how it came to fruition. So she was working with the young lady, and while in the midst of doing the full on planning, decided to, hey, let's make this formal and get it going.
Wow, amazing. All right. So now what did you have in mind for us? Let's talk about your collaboration and working together.
Oh, it's definitely all hands on deck. We're small. It's our family business, so we have to scale things based on availability and when we can best meet the needs of our clients. But it's really she and I coming together, and she has ideas. She'll run it by the client, and then figures out how to incorporate me in it, whether it be transportation, getting things to the venue, helping set up. I try to support any capacity in which I can. So there's a business oversight piece of it where determining what costs are associated with it. Day of coordination isn't just showing up. There's making sure that the venue, if they're not staffed, who we would bring along to help facilitate things on the day of. Um, Logistically, how are we going to get to and from? If it's a venue or an event that's and travels included, how does that work? How are we going to factor that in from a timing standpoint? Just the scale of the overall projects themselves. So she handles the details as it comes to the presentation a lot, right? The vendor management. Where I come into play and where we partnership on a lot comes into some of the logistical things as far as, all right, how many bodies are we going to need to pull this off? The guest list is 150 people. Um, how are we going to get all that set up? How are we going to, who's going to be needed power wise for us to pull this off, and the time frame that we're given to kind of set up and break things down. Those are things that uh, brides, people that we're doing business for, they may not factor in, from a scalability, the time that it takes to get things set up, broken down, uh, getting things to and from,
Labor.
the labor that's included in that. So, that's where, she and I have conversation and partner the best around pulling things together.
Sorry. I don't know what's
Oh,
going
no.
on. My camera's going on and off. You guys are flashing in and out, but hey, the podcast seamless, everyone. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Go for it. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Continue the
and I think
conversation.
one of the biggest things, when we talked about pricing last week, and a lot of inquiries come in through Wedding Wire and the Knot, and they say, well, what are your packages and what does it entail? And a lot of times people are looking for coordination to probably be, maybe $500 or $600 at best, for someone that's thinking, okay, this is the last thing that I need to take care of. However, as Stefan talked about, the logistics and the manpower that's needed to make things kind of voila and happen. We talked about before the cost of those helpers setting up. I try whenever it's a day of coordination to really steer away from adding any type of decor setup or things of that nature to try to keep that planning and coordination day up to a minimum amount. Because once brides start saying, "Well, we're going to need someone to bust the tables," well, now you're looking at a minimum wage of at least $20 an hour to get someone there to bust off those tables. or perhaps add that to, the coordination package. So Stefan really helps a lot with that relationship management piece, doing a lot of the industry standard research to ensure that we're pricing correctly
Hmm.
and be able to, give the best price point to our clients as possible.
Got it. Absolutely. And by the way, we should remind everyone we're about halfway through how we can reach out to you both to make that wedding dream, that event dream come true and be possible. Would you mind sharing all forms of contact?
Of course, I would say, the best form is Google search a bird's eye view events, North Carolina. You can also go to Facebook at a bird's eye view underscore NC, Instagram a bird's eye view events. Also, event detective, a bird's eye view events NC as well.
And by the way, I know we had some great discussions for those listening. You're based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. So obviously the surrounding area, it's very popular for you. And you mentioned some of the popular destinations in North Carolina that you work with. But hey, you also work out of state, not just limited to the state of North Carolina, correct?
Yes, correct. If, the budget is right and we're able to travel, we will definitely take on those events. But right now we're located about, 130 miles east, west, and north of North Carolina. Sorry, Charlotte, North Carolina,
Mhm.
which would take us to Asheville area in the mountains, as well as Rock Hill, South Carolina, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and down near the wine country, going towards Raleigh, North Carolina.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you so much. Also, now we've had a few shows before without Stefan, right? So you've told me a lot about the work you're doing. Stefan, what are the other things you want to share about why we should be working with you and Cherrisse and the company? What is it about you that makes you guys so unique? I mean, I love the whole dynamic duo thing, which is great because as a husband, you're like you're a team no matter what. So I know you guys get the job done right.
No, absolutely. Well, I mean, there are a lot of things that go into event planning or any special memory or moment that you're creating that you may have a thought about, but pulling it off, that may get overlooked, right? And
Hmm.
that's kind of where we come into play. There are things that come up in conversation that we can help out with. For example, Cherrisse had a situation with a birthday party recently that we did, and they really wanted to scale some things that were not necessarily they didn't factor in as far as from a budget standpoint or how I was gonna go from just the day of the coordination piece of it, right? And there were questions asked. We asked questions really to figure out the best way to solve for unforeseen. So this guest count got out of control. And the birthday, of course, our job is to make sure that the client's satisfied. That's where we come into play and want to make sure we're doing all that we can. But how does that impact our vendors from sourcing the materials needed for not just the decoration, but the overall event, making sure we have everything in place from the kitchen staff and the decorative piece of it. These are things that they didn't factor in when the guest count kind of just ballooned on them, right? So we had to kind of pivot and
Yeah.
figure out how to best accommodate that. And those are things that if you don't have the right people in place from a planning standpoint, can definitely throw a party out of control, whether it be from the availability of food, drink, seating arrangements,
Napkins.
napkins, whatever it
Yeah.
may be, right? So it's not just, oh, I planned for 50, but 100 showed up. How do you account for that when that happens on the day of? Like you have to have those things factored in. And if you don't have the right people in place, like a bird's eye view, you might be in a position where you can't accommodate that. And those are things that you just have to consider. And
Did,
I always share with folks, price is what you pay, but value is what you get. And you cannot go back once you've decided, hey, I'm going to go with this person because they lowballed you on the cost associated with something. That's not what you're going to be concerned with when your event is happening. You're going to be concerned with how was this orchestrated? How was it pulled off? How was it brought to fruition? And that's where that value comes into play. And we do the best we can to make sure that that value is you receive that value each and every time we're a part of it. So
Mhm.
that's where we come into play.
got it. And let me ask, well, how was your weekend, by the way, for Mother's Day? Was it busy? Was there fun-filled events? What did we do? What did we work on?
Every weekend is busy. There's no such
Uh-huh.
thing as a busy week.
Did you guys have any events? Were you working? Was it packed?
We had what we did a sneaker ball birthday party for a 13-year-old on Saturday, which we had like a really beautiful balloon mosaic where we had a Jordan shoe created.
Mm,
And we put balloons in there to kind of fill it and have the colors associated with the party, as well as build out a balloon arch and had a second light up shoe that was a huge hit that I partner with one of our vendors, our Wish You Would, to kind of bring my vision to reality. So it was really, really nice. I think it went off pretty well.
okay.
But of course, it was, a very busy Saturday. I was happy to get to
Wow.
Sunday to kind of relax with my family and be able to have some downtime with them.
Awesome. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah. And what other events do we have coming up? Anything that you want to share with us in particular? Or do you want to discuss more details about the work that you put in? Some people might say, well, what does an event planner do? I know we've talked about it before, but for today's Zoom show with Stefan, what area of focus did you want to kind of dive down to for today?
Yeah, I really just wanted to focus in on, those logistical things that a lot of event throwers or individuals with these wild ideas may not think of, like he spoke about on the party last weekend when guest counts balloon, you will get another bill. I think a lot of times, people think, oh, I've paid you out full and, this is what it is. And they feel like they can maybe, have those scope creeps and gold plating, as we would call in the corporate world, happen. But, it's the same type of idea
Yep.
in the planning industry.
Hmm.
Anytime there's an increase
Yeah.
in the overall budget and plan, there will be an associated cost or expense, somewhere. And unfortunately, it's not necessarily fair for the event planner to have
Sure.
to kind of scurry and make those things
Oh,
happen. And a lot of times, one thing that we did run into is overall supply chain demands.
Mhm.
I ordered extra plates for, 25 more guests. And unfortunately, they still haven't arrived almost
oh
a
my
week or
gosh.
two, ahead of time. But, when you think of those things and you're planning down to those minute details and you want everything to look a certain way, you know, unfortunately, it may not arrive in time. So that's, a little bit of disappointment there, extra cost associated with, delivery, shipment demands, and things of that nature. And that cost will go back to the client. So, that's one thing that I think event planners really need to have in their contracts and make sure that our clients are really aware of those type things and not that it's something that needs to be paid after the party. We need that money up front to get those things here in time.
Oh my goodness, I can only imagine. Well, with COVID, right, how everything slowed down, but then getting back into the groove, I mean, everything is increased. It's been hard to get everything for anything. I mean, things are getting better, but even like construction jobs, right? The wood, the materials,
Right.
this,
Yes,
but same concept for you all because they're being made overseas, some of the stuff. And
a lot
wow.
of event planning stuff is made in China. I mean,
Hmm.
so much of it is, shipped in. It's amazing to
Wow, I
think
know
about.
you told me that one story about saving the day with the tent. You left your house, you said a prayer. Where were you headed? It was the hurricane, right?
Yeah, Asheville, North Carolina.
Stefan's like,
He
I
was
remember
so
that
against
Asheville.
it.
Like, no, no, going. Like, I gotta go, and you went, and everything worked out. But yeah, those emergency type of situations happen. You have to be with someone who has that skill, that capability of handling it, and getting something else
Absolutely.
last minute, right?
Mhm.
Absolutely. How did you feel about the Hurricane Ian
Thought you
situation?
were nuts for driving
He was
in the
holding
middle of
you
a
at the door.
storm.
Don't go, don't go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was literally like, can this not wait till tomorrow? She was like, no, we got to be there to set up so that in the morning, should it have to be held outside, I'm already here. I'm not trying to figure, I mean, inside, I'm already here to kind of
Hmm.
kind of get things moved around. I was like, but you're literally going to drive in the middle of a hurricane, I mean, a hurricane alert or whatever it was. And she's like, yeah, I got to get there before it gets there. I'm like, okay. Yeah. People don't factor in hurricanes and natural
Wow.
natural
Wow.
disasters.
Now, Stefan, is there a favorite type of event that you love working on? Is it weddings? Is it
I
like
mean,
is there
weddings are fun. Weddings are really
hmm
fun just because to see the work that the brides or the couple put in and it coming to or fruition and surpassing what they thought. Because here's the thing, when you're at these events as a guest, you don't have any
No
clue or
clue.
inclination what the original thought was right behind it.
Yeah.
You're just showing up to get food, maybe some alcohol, party, dance a little bit, right? But the bride and the wedding planner, they see everything that did not go according to scope or plan, right?
Ah,
And to see that it not have these in Cherisse's minds and the bride's minds when they see certain things like, you know what, this was supposed to be here and it didn't go as according to plan, they're freaking out, right? Nobody else knows that, all right, the table was supposed to be put in this corner, cat cornered, and the food was
but
supposed to swing out this way.
yep, yep.
They don't see that, but I mean, the guests don't see that, but the wedding planner and the event planner and the bride and those folks do. But to see how it shows out and turns out, and everyone's like, "Oh, it was so beautiful. It was the best day of my life." And I'm like, "Yeah, you forgot about, X, Y, and Z that didn't go perfect, the plan per se, and they don't even see the impact of that. But the weddings are the funnest for me because to see the sheer joy and adoration that
Aw.
people have in that moment and to know that we're a part of that for them,
Yeah,
something that they'll last, be
forever.
a lasting lifetime memory. So that's probably my best part, the best thing about it.
Oh, great. Well, we still got 5 minutes left, Stefan, Charisse. What else do you want to share with your audience today?
Things can go away. They can definitely go awry if you don't have someone in place. I'm just letting you
Okay.
know that we
Okay.
lived it. We
Yeah.
lived it on our wedding day, and that's kind of
Uh,
what fuels the passion for us to do
which
really good work for the folks we work for.
clearly you can really empathize with them. Like you've been there, we get it, we understand. But you also got to put that disclaimer in. Something could happen, no matter how great we are as planners and what we do
It
with our
happens.
company. Things can happen beyond our control, like hurricanes, like storms, like
Hmm.
yes, a shortage of supplies. Wow. Okay, interesting. If you do reach out to, if someone wants to reach out to you, offer a free initial consultation, right?
Correct.
Yes, if anyone wants to reach out to us for a consultation, I would strongly recommend them to go to the Knot or Wedding Wire. That is, one of our top sources for leads to come in. We are very responsive there. We have initial information about our company as well as packages on Wedding Wire and the Knot as well. And in addition, increase can come through Google that will flow
Yep.
right into our HoneyBook account as well. And they'll also receive the same introductory packages from those sites. Facebook, Instagram is also another intake tool. It's just not as automatic as the other three are right now. But in addition to those, Wedding Wire, Google, The Knot, and Facebook, Instagram, we also have Event Detective where people can also send in inquiries. So,
And just a side note, the best way for us to get back in contact with you is definitely phone. So if you are submitting an
Yep.
inquiry, emails are great, right? But how responsive are you to those emails? It really
Yeah.
helps us if you're serious about getting an event
Mm,
off the ground and getting it done, that we can reach out to you because that it's easier for us to give you a phone call
mhm.
than to respond via email back and forth. Those that can take days depending on how responsive you are to emails. So we're not gonna not, if you give us accurate contact
Telephone number.
information, it allows us to reach out to you in a more timely fashion and to just speak with you around details that you probably won't put in an email, right? So
yeah.
help us out, give us your phone contact information. We'll call out to you hopefully within 24 to 48 hours at the max,
Wonderful.
right?
Yep,
Mhm.
of
But it just
course.
helps us greatly in that space.
Well, thank you guys so much. Pleasure having you both here. And let's remind everyone of the website. How do we reach you both?
A bird's eye view events.com and Facebook, Instagram, a bird's eye view NC, Google search a bird's eye view events, North Carolina. And we look forward to hearing from you all.
Yay. Do we have a busy weekend coming up, guys? How many events do we have? Or is it a quiet?
No, I've actually kind of decided to, slow it down a little bit for the
Oh,
rest of the month. We have two events, one in July and one in June
good.
that I'm looking forward to, and then a day of coordination in September. So We are open for business in the fall of this year.
Yeah, the spring's been pretty busy.
Yeah,
The
very
last
busy.
month has been nuts. This is the time that's been going down. So we're gonna take a little breather for a moment.
Good. Well, pleasure
Yeah.
having you back, Cherrisse. Pleasure to meet you, Stefan. I love this dynamic duo, clearly passionate. And by the way, great testimonials on their website. You got to read those as well. Of course, seeing is believing, reading what people are writing about you and how amazing you are, willing to pivot in that moment's notice and being, going above and beyond as that planner. Thank you guys so much for being here. Have a
Thank you for
fantastic
having
day, and we'll
us.
talk soon.
Thanks, Jill.
Thank
Have
you,
a
Jill.
great week.
Nice
Thanks,
meeting
guys.
you.
You too. You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.